client in Germany. So clearly it shows that something has been going right in Germany. But if you notice, like the years, this is up to 2019, which is pre-pandemic, as you can imagine. So based on this, like, again, like, let's look now at the trends. What about after pandemic and the future outlook in general? Now here, basically, when we talk about the trends, as we all know, like new hybrid work in 2020 was quite hard because it was necessary, but without any planning and no established structure, no processes. So now it's really important to check lessons learned and see how hybrid work can be created and established in the future. Why is that important? Are we saying that hybrid work is going to continue in the future? It looks like the researchers tell us this. Again, like in an effort to minimize the risk of infection in workplaces and public transport in Germany, in January 2021, January this year, the German federal government imposed a new home working rule, which stipulated that employees were legally required to enable, employers were legally required to enable their employees to work from home so long as there were no compelling operational requirement. Now, going forward, more than 30% of all workers want to continue working from home like 5 days a week after the pandemic, believe it or not. Even as of March 2021, March this year, some 45% of work force was being done at home, basically. 45% of workload was being done at home. And according to findings from the report circulated by an institute called the NBER in Germany. Now, as of July 1, Germany's mandatory home working rule is no longer in effect. But the population is apparently not best pleased to see it go. Why is this? Because research tells us that 2/3 of people in Germany want mandatory home working offer to stay. And a new survey by EU government has found even that after coronavirus, 65% of those surveyed believed that employees in certain industries should still have the right to work from home where possible. Now, 17% said they were against a continued home working relation, while the rest were not sure whether they would want to work from home or basically go back to office. So all of the above clearly requires a new leadership approach to cater for this new changes and environment. Now, add to all these facts the following as well. Now, the following basically is that with the shortage of skilled workers in Germany, it is becoming more of a challenge for employers to attract qualified employees. And this is, I think, a challenge that exists across the globe, across a lot of markets and countries in the world. Now, the Trendens Institute, which surveyed over 25,000 professionals, basically to find out the most popular employees in Germany, have those results of the study were compiled and basically in the following. And the employee who took part in the study were asked simply what the most important factors were to them when choosing where to work. And those are the 10 most important factors that came up when choosing a job in Germany. Surprised? Probably not. I mean, again, leadership style comes on the top of the list, as you can see. Things like treatment of employees, friendly colleagues, a good scope of personal development, of course, like a good salary, of course, shows there, but a little bit bottom of the list. And of course, a good balance between work and social life and so on. So this list basically is an important list that came out of this survey. Now, leadership style at the top of the list, of course, need to tell us a lot of things. So in general, we have a scholar called Mr. Robert M. Hausler, who actually published in August, like 2 months ago, in August 2021, what should the leaders in Germany be familiar with when it comes to leadership trends for 2021 and most probably also for the future. Now, again, you can see that something like empathy and authenticity are paramount. Managers now should be able to put themselves in their employees' shoes. As a matter of fact, according to a McKinsey study in one of the markets, 40% of the employees surveyed are likely to leave their jobs without even having a new job in hand in the coming 3 to 6 months. Can you believe it? I mean, this rings an alerting bell, as it might be like the case also in many other markets as well. Why is this? Because simply employees are kind of tired and many are grieving because of the situation we've been in for so long. They want a renewed and revised sense of purpose in their work. They want social and interpersonal connections with their colleagues and managers. And basically, they also want to feel a sense of shared identity. So instead of showing empathy and understanding, unfortunately, leaders make, in most of the cases, the assumption that possibly a pay or a perk or benefits would fix the problem. But eventually, if they're not able to see the real issue, then they are putting themselves and their business at risk. I mean, yes, employees want pay, they want benefits and perks, but more importantly, they want to feel valued, especially in the current situation that we're in. So failing to invest in a more fulfilling employee experience with a valued purpose is not going to be helping the business. So that's the first trend that we need to make sure that we are basically empathetic and again, like having this kind of authenticity towards our employees. Now, when it looks like to one of the other very important human skills, believe it or not, as basic as it might sound, something like active listening, like the future skill for managers as a competency of integrating intuition and generative dialogue is truly a future communication skills. And this skill that is a must-have for leaders for the future. Again, giving the situation even more required today than any time before. And in a world where we are overwhelmed with information and hardly know where our heads are anymore, how are we supposed basically to understand each other's, if not via the path of truly deep listening, and this is due to the mindset or this troublemaker ego, which would know basically, but does not, but we don't like basically. So for whom it is simply to bring, it's simply to basically, we need to bring this competency into life and to adjust to the other person somehow. To take oneself back and direct one's attention to the other person. It's usually more fun to fill the cannon again for the next well-formulated salvo, while the other person is saying something, instead of like really actively listening to the person. And it must be said now. And while one is on the way, one cannot listen, at least not the other person. And this is exactly where deep listening, the mega competence, clearly goes beyond active listening. It already begins with the fact that listening starts with oneself, and only after that listening to the other is possible at all. And you can imagine how this is even more critical now than any other time in light of pandemic situation or continue to work remotely in the future and so on. I guess makes a lot of sense. Again, continuing with Robert Hausler, very importantly, the word leadership in the year 2021 is no longer optimally chosen anyway. Instead, actually, executives now act more as coaches. They need to lead by example and be a kind of a mentor to their employees instead of falling into micromanagement or over-controlling employees. Modern leadership is based on mutual trust and a natural authority to which employees voluntarily orient themselves. The coach here is responsible for constructive feedback, for which an open error culture and authenticity in the company again is essential. So coaching instead of leadership is a very important trend coming through. Now, this new way of thinking means that bottom-up leadership will become increasingly relevant, especially in upcoming years. The manager is no longer in sole charge, but the employees should consciously work as a community and lead themselves, so to speak, basically. They can make their own decisions and thus generate innovations, come up with creative ideas, especially the different and shared expertise in the team brings valuable ideas and perspectives, which can mean different optimization for the company as a whole. It's therefore important to promote them and to basically steer them somehow in the right direction, and as a leader, of course. Now, instead of fighting them in order to have the sole say, so rather like embrace them and steer them rather than just fight them as a leader. Now, in this way, new perspective can be created, and thus better results can possibly be achieved in the team and the company. So participatory leadership is an important keyword here, if I may say. Now, again, like, of course, this is the new language, again, leaders and digitization. This is the new language a leader can only speak and be understood with all the new generations coming through the talent supply path. Talking millennials, Generation Z, Generation X, etc. If you can't communicate using their already built communication systems and digital tools, it means you lost a big opportunity of being consistently connected with them. Today, we see a lot of leaders posting for their organizations and teams important messages and information and communicating on social media as an important, basically, pillar for an established leadership and keeping consistently communicating with their organizations. Now, another one is in 2021, obviously, the explicit bottleneck of skilled worker. Sorry, let me tell you this one like this. Now, on the health and wellness, under public law on occupational health and safety, employers are responsible for compliance with performance of the acts and regulations of trade association in Germany and so on. A lot of authorities are emphasizing this, as well as for implementing official requirements when it comes to health and wellness. So similar to many other high-income countries, Germany currently faces two trends that have a serious impact on its economy and workforce. First of all, the composition of the working population is shifting toward older age groups, which is a process that will probably be accompanied by an increase in the burden of non-communicable diseases among the workforce, etc. And the second one is that many branches of the German economy are confronted with an acute shortage of skilled workers and qualified staff. Now, this is a situation that has persisted for years, by the way, and recently even deteriorated. Now, against this background, stakeholders are increasingly recognizing activities that strengthen the workability and employability of the workforce and promote the good health of workers in general. Thus, it comes as no surprise that during the last years and decades even, a strategy called workplace health management has gained a lot of popularity in Germany. And in the current situation and circumstances that we live, it has even gained higher popularity in Germany. Another trend is employer branding. In 2021, obviously, again, like the explicit bottleneck of skilled worker will continue to be a problem, as I mentioned before, and employee retention, therefore, plays an important role, but so does also employee recruitment, of course, right? Two aspects that must go hand in hand when it comes to talent management in general, and where managers and leaders, of course, will play an important role, because only satisfied, vision-driven, and motivated employees stay and recruit directly or indirectly new employees for their brand and for their basically employer brand. So that's a very important factor that we need to maintain and keep basically alive. Then comes, of course, with the changing situations, and many of the trends already mentioned are part of agile leadership, which was picked up in pace in 2020 as a result of all the circumstances. And it is therefore a matter of being able to attract the right specialist for the company through appropriate measures on the one hand, and the other hand to motivate the existing working environment or the skilled ones in order to offer them best possible conditions for the individual development and everyday working life, etc. In this way, strengths and talents can be optimally of course, brought to bear. i.e. the company benefits as much as possible from individuals and team-based expertise. Now, the main task of new leaders in this context is to implement agile working method sustainability, and if not already done, to further their education in this area in an application-oriented manner. And in addition to agile working, again, like another concept here is like shared leadership. And we're basically talking about things have got to change in the upcoming years. The classic management structures no longer reflect what we call like the spirit of the age or the current period of history. For years now, one new management model has been chasing the next countless recommendations excuse me, and are being made as to how an ideal manager should be knitted. And there are also no shortages of alternative solutions at organizations level, of course. Now, more self-responsibility and self-efficacy is the credo, more self-leadership, in other words, if I may say. Assuming we are serious about organizational and leadership changes, which is probably essential, it would be advisable to use the window of opportunity opened by COVID-19 to implement the change. Then it would make sense to consistently pursue the path we have to work and so on. One more is, again, like adaptive leadership. It's the dynamic adaptability which will gain relevance not only in the current calendar of year 2021, but also in the future. Managers must therefore be able to react flexible to situation instead of clinging to routines or fixed structures. It is important to find new ways of thinking, problem solutions, and to evaluate each situation anew and adequately. And again, like here in the deep listening method, to find great help and approach, as mentioned by Robert M. Hausler in his article, Leaders Should Be Familiar with Those 10 Leadership Trends. So now, what about L&D and the leadership of L&D? Now, if I may say, like stemming from the last trends of agile work and leadership, and like in other leadership aspects, it's crucial also for leaders in learning and development to have engaging, innovative solutions that are not standalone, but that include elements that are adding value to the participant of the training and are somehow tackling some of the challenges, trends that we discussed above. Instead of going the regular conventional approach, it is also time that learning and development leaders consider undergoing to their learners approach solutions like business simulations, experiential learnings, using learning journeys that are engaging people for a long term, not just on an event base, rather than pushing content, but really practicing leadership style without personal or financial consequences. Ideas that would get learners to more include in the process of engagement for a more sustainable learning transfer, for example, is the idea of the journey. This is an example of a learning journey in front of you. An idea of like a driving action tracker to keep learner active and supported about their knowledge and behavior post-learning after the learning sessions, feedback tools, check-in, check-out interviews with leader, and so on. So all these are important when it comes to our world of L&D as well, like coming from a specialty of L&D. Now, talking about one simple model, which is called the Key Performance Pyramid, a model to ensure basically putting all those trends in a much simpler format, basically to ensure peak performance. And the word peak here is very important. It's not just a model that would ensure performance, but we talk about peak performance as much as it's simplicity and basically the basic concept that's behind it. We'll find that a lot of leaders might miss some blocks of this. Now, it supports basically leaders going back to basics and ensuring those exist as a leadership of any organization. Mm-hmm. So we want to be talking about the pyramids. I mentioned before that I come from Egypt, but this is not the pyramids we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the peak performance pyramid. And the base of the pyramid is very important and critical. And maybe we have touched a little bit on that base when we talked about recruitment and talent. And this is where we want to make sure that as a leader, of course, like when we look at the capacity of the job itself, and how can we make sure that those individuals that we bring into our organizations have got the qualities that would be fitting within the capacity of this job, being it social adaptiveness, emotional intelligence, wellness, energy, so forth. So all these examples of capacity are important that to be matched with the individual to be recruited. Then comes next, of course, like is the knowledge and skills. Once you basically bring in an individual, it's not enough to bring the right individual into the right capacity to ensure that this individual is going to give you as a leader the peak performance. But as a next step, you want to make sure that you give him the needed knowledge and skills to equip him with basically the whatever he needs in terms of this two key areas in order to help him reach the peak performance. Now, having said that, if you brought the right individual into the right capacity and give him the knowledge and skills needed, would this be enough to get this individual performance to get to the peak performance? I doubt it. I think not. One other block that you need to build in your peak performance pyramid in this case would be tools. Like you want to make sure that you give him the right tools. You want to make sure that, again, not deprive him from what's needed in terms of tool to be able to do his job in the best way possible. And this is another block that's important to build onto the key performance pyramid, because if you do only the first two blocks and you don't give him the right or needed tools, he would never, whatever he does or she does, they would never be able to reach the peak performance. And then you need to simply communicate what tasks you expect from this individual performance. What are the tasks that they need to be doing? Again, here we talk about information sharing and like communication, like we mentioned, and so on. As simple as just tell them what they need to do. In many situations, believe it or not, we expect them that they figure this out on their own, at least for a period of time, and we just like throw them in the ocean and tell them to swim. And as simple as it might sound, as critical as it is, again, like an important building block in the peak performance pyramid. Following this, you're not going to let them, of course, do whatever they'd like within their own perspective, but you want to make sure that you put the framework within which they can operate so that they don't fall into major mistakes or gaps. So you want to set the processes for them and basically tell them what are the right paths for them to be able to perform their job. So they can, again, reach the peak performance and they don't deviate in other ways that might not be helpful or healthy for the business. Once you do this, like again, like you've hired the right individual in the right capacity, you've trained the individual, you've gave them the needed tools, you've told them what tasks you expect from him or her, you told them what are the processes, the policies, the procedures. Now you should expect him to reach the peak performance. But the answer is probably not, because there are still some very important steps that are missing in the pyramid. One important step is information. It has to do again with communication. And here we talk about two-way information. Like you want to share the right information and you want to make sure that you do this in an effective way. And then eventually one last very, very important part, which is the tip of the pyramid, where most of the leaders forget to do, is purpose. What is the purpose of the job? Why does the job exist in the first place? What kind of value does the job bring to the equation and to the organization? And that's basically very, very important. So, and that's the leadership role. So when we talk about leadership role, we want to make sure that we choose the right people. We want to make sure that we basically train them. We give them basically, we provide them with the tools, upgraded tools to allow them to do a perfect job. And we want to make sure that we, again, like communicate their kind of tasks to them, inform them, match their KPIs, set and explain that the processes and policies and procedures, and eventually give them feedback, ongoing feedback on what's going well, what needs to be improved, and finally, give them their vision and engage them ongoing with this. Now, we talked previously about the concept of shared leadership. Remember, so it's not only the role of the leader, but we also want to make sure that we have also the role of the individual performer as well, in order to reach key performance as a concept, as an idea, and reach the top of the pyramid. The individual performer, again, as a shared leadership, he needs to live this capacity. She needs to live this capacity. We want to make sure that they apply whatever training, knowledge, skills, development you've given them as a leader, and make sure that the time invested in this step is paid out somehow. And you want to also make sure that as an individual, you want to make sure that you use whatever tools that have been supplied to you by the leadership. You don't want to stick to the old systems or old ways of doing things, but you want to make sure that you upgrade your tools, you upgrade your way of doing things in terms of systems, and you follow this. As simple as this, you just need to perform and achieve those tasks one way or another, and follow, respects the policies and procedures, and eventually listen to the information, possibly even give information. And the final key important step as a performer, you want to make sure that you believe. I mean, believing in the purpose that had been communicated by the leader. And only then, if those matches, this shared leadership concept basically matches between the leader role and the individual performer role, only then peak performers can be reached. And any block in the pyramid, if missing, yes, you would do some kind of performance, but you would never probably be able to reach the peak performance any organization would be looking for. So as simple as it might sound as a model, as critical as it is, and it reflects a lot on all the trends that we've been talking about, from the recruitment to empathy, authenticity, I mean, listening actively and all the stuff. Again, like all these are important key words and steps and processes that want to make sure as leaders now and in the future. And these are classical things. It's only want to make sure that we bring them to life. So just if you want to talk about that a little bit also, if I may, like thinking of a conclusion, I would say probably in addition to all the technology, the wowing approach of digital transformation, the AI, VR, social media swerves, etc. I mean, I would say that leadership trends in Germany are probably like more about human relations now, and in the future, more like going back to basics, but rather turn them on and make them alive. So that basically concludes my presentation. And thank you. And if you have any questions, I guess we can do this now. Tay, yes.
ถ้าใครมีคำถามสามารถพิมพ์ถามในแชทได้นะครับหรือว่าถ้าใครเปิดไมค์ก็สามารถถามได้เลยนะครับผม
Thank you. If you'd like to post in chat, maybe you're more than welcome to do this.
Okay, so let me ask you some of the question.
Yes.
About your the pyramid, right? I very interesting, and I have to ask you, what about if I can make it implement in the daily life on your pyramid? Can you give you the example for that to implement it?
Yes, I mean, like again, a very simple example is that as a leader, and I just and like while I built up the pyramid from the bottom up. Basically Pochara, let's look at it from the other way around, like from the top of the pyramid, thinking of the purpose. And in many situations, we forget as leaders to communicate this concept of the purpose as simple as it is. And what I mean by purpose, I'm not talking here about like the goal or the objective. I mean, the goals and objectives would come in the tasks block rather than in the top of the pyramid. But I'm talking about what's more than that. Why does the company exist in the first place? How does my job or your job as an individual, okay, would contribute to the special purpose of for the company to exist in the long term? And how do you add value as an individual in that specific job role? Again, I can still go to this classic story that I'm sure everybody knows about it. I mean, again, when in NASA they asked about a janitor who's basically responsible for cleaning, what's your job? What are you doing here in NASA? And he told them, his answer was, I'm here to put a man on the moon. I mean, this is the kind of purpose that he's living up to, as simple as his job is. So believe it, and that's what we talk about when it comes to a bigger purpose than just the simple goals or objectives. I hope I answered your question, Tay.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
You're welcome.
มีผู้
And
ไหนอยากถามไหมครับผม
of course, you're more than welcome to post in chat if you like. And also, I will be available later, maybe through Slingshot, our good partners, if you would like to connect with us and to ask us any questions related to the presentation. Okay.
คุณ ลุงนภาอยากถามหรือเปล่าครับ
Napa maybe wanted to.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Okay,
Good morning.
Runapa from AA Thailand. May I have one question for you?
Of course, my pleasure.
As a good leader, as a great leader, okay, during the future transformation that you mentioned about the leadership pyramid, could you please to share some just one or two insight that as a great leader, what should be focus on just one or two things to ensure the alignment or the good balance between the leader side and the employee side?
Yeah. In my opinion, again, like we have to be sensible to what's going around us, Runapa. I mean, like we are in a situation that is not a normal situation. It's been going for a while. And it looks like it's going to be continue to be such. And even if things improves on the health side, as we looked at the trends, again, like a lot of people would probably continue to work remotely. So the fact that people are working remotely would require some kind of a different approach, again, from your side. I would say, from my own perspective, if I want to summarize like what could be a good trait for a leader in this coming period, I want the leader to be human, if I may say, more human, sensible to the individual needs. As I mentioned before, again, like something that has to do with trust is a very important and key word here. Authenticity and being authenticity, by this we mean basically being able to put yourself into your team member shoes, your subordinate shoes, because again, like you want to make sure that you understand what's going on around them, with them, and so on. And I'm not only talking I'm not talking necessarily on the personal level, but I'm also talking on the professional level. They are not with you on a daily basis every time. Again, like and now with technology, it's easy that you connect in a simpler way, in a more effective way. You just want to make sure that you take the first positive step towards showing a genuine interest in their needs as a human being before looking only to them as an employee. That would be my advice. I hope I answered.
Thank you for your advice. Yeah, I think that it makes sense that okay, the human being should come first. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, Olga. It's my pleasure. Please, you're more than welcome. Anyone else to ask me any questions? I'm really honored and pleased to be here. It's actually, I started at 5 o'clock in the morning today, and I'm based in Cairo, Egypt, but I'm still pumped up with energy for being with you, and I'm very excited to be here with you in this event. So you're more than welcome to ask me. Please feel free to do so. It's a good opportunity for me to listen to you as well and to learn from you, by the way. So if Tai, maybe if no questions, I don't want to put.
May I have another question?
Of course.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just thinking that okay, what if, okay, in the reality, okay, I think that a lot of leaders, okay, understand the importance about these changes, but okay, what if, okay, it's not easy things, you know, to change the right mindset for all leaders, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, as
Yes.
you mentioned that, okay, the key critical success factor is based on people, how to become the empathic leader, to understand your people. In the large organization, I mean, you know, it's a diverse group of people. If you know, based on your advice, okay, what is just one top priority for the top leader should be focusing on? Yeah.
Yes, I would say, to be honest, I would say communication. Communicate consistently of what are the principles and values that you want to bring down the organization. As a top leader, it's your responsibility to bring the right mindset into the culture of the organization, and this would only happen via consistently communicating the right message. And making sure that it reaches all, basically all your organization members one way or another. If you decide to stay alone and be disconnected, I think you're risking to lose a lot on the business and on the people level. And but connecting with people, communicating with people, I would say is the first important priority on this time of changes and so on. I would say this. Makes sense? As simple as it is, basically. Yeah. I mean, like, again, I concluded with a very simple statement. I said it's a matter of going back to basics, okay? And always what we're doing is like some kind of basics, but we like bring them to life, practice them, live them, and so on. And communication is one important basic. I think there was another question that was like about to come up before Ragapa. Who was maybe I like kind of heard an intention for a question, but I'm not sure. Okay. So of course, Tai, Montana, I'm not sure about the time now anymore because we started a little bit late. So I'm not able to tell whether we passed the time or not. So I leave this
actually,
as long as
can you hear me?
You need me here, I'm available. So
Baha, can you hear me? เต้ได้ยินเสียงพี่ไหม
ผมได้ยินครับพี่ฝน Mr. Bahaa, can you hear the Mantana sound?
Baha
เพราะเขาอินเทอร์เน็ตน่าจะมีปัญหาครับ
น่าจะเป็นที่อินเทอร์เน็ตของคุณบาฮาครับ
ค่ะคือห้อง breakout room เนี่ยค่ะจะอยู่
I'm not sure.
Hi Baha, can you hear me? The breakout session, your session will end at 11:45, but if you finish your content, it's okay. Our participant can move to another room. But are there any like questions? คุณบีมีอะไรถามไหมคะ เดี๋ยวดูว่ารู้จักท่านไหนบ้าง บาฮาหลุดไปแล้วเหรอ
มาแล้วครับกลับมาแล้ว
โอเค บาฮา the session your session will end at 11:40 but if your content if you been done your presentation is okay.
Yes, I'm done with my presentation. I'm
Okay.
available for your questions. If you want any more, I'm here.
I just joined in the last part. I heard that you mentioned. I mentioned about you mentioned about human skill, right? People more leader are more human.
Yes.
Totally agree. Currently, one of our best seller program we call super skill. You know, in the fast moving environment, we need to as a leader we need to create a human moment with our team because it's precious and people really need it. Most of the time, like we are in the meeting and from COVID-19, even myself, nearly a year that I not meeting with my team in person. Today is my first day after like I think 12 months that I'm in the office for this event.
Yeah.
Okay, I have question about German leadership style, because you work long time with German, right?
Yes.
If you identify like 2 to 3 key competency for
Yes.
German leader, why they successful, why they success as a leader, what is their
Yes.
competence that you observe?
Yes, yes. If you remember in my presentation, I mentioned something about like that there was some changes when it comes from the strict style of German leadership classically, when things started to shift a little bit more into things related more to values and so on. Okay. Now the beauty is that the German leadership are able to make this balance between the I would say now recently the human part, and in the same time still maintaining the competency, the principle of being competent. So sometimes this balance might be a little bit challenging to achieve, but bringing in together the human touch or the human leadership, I would say, with the principle of still making sure that the principle of competence still remains. That's, I would say, the secret source of German leadership. And this is something that is essential for the future, because as things with the changes, it's not only the changes are getting tougher, not only on the people, organization, individual level, but also on the business level, which requires again more skilled people, better practices, and so on. So if you can strike this balance between those two secret sources and come up with this formula, the human part and the competency part, like the principle of like, again, like how would we say it, competency is very important. And I would say again, like as you mentioned, Montana, now all these human skills, they have been there since ever. This is not something new. Unfortunately, maybe some leaders, I would say, like as part of their role in leadership, they believe that maybe they wanna play it a little bit differently as in terms of mindset. But now that could have been possible in the past. Now with the situation that are changing, with the remote management that we have today, and the challenges that we're facing on the people management front, it's not an option that you bring those back and make sure that you practice them in the right way. Those human touches, competencies, and skills, basically. That's what I believe in terms of like again.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
When we look at German from Asian people perspective, okay, we especially for Thai, it's quite challenge for us when we need to direct telling people something. But from my experience that I heard people talk about German can like give more direct feedback,
Yes.
or any suggestion for Asian people while working with German leaders in terms of communication. You mentioned about communication too, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I would say like German would like to have like a straightforward approach and be candid about the issues and challenges. Not try to engulf them in an unrealistic or like a nicer look than they truly are. This doesn't mean that you are disrespectful or aggressive in any way. It's just that you want to make sure that you mention the facts as they are, so that they get it, and accordingly they can make the right decisions and not being misled, but make the right decision and help you with solution that would make sense. That's how basically I would say, based on my own experience, I would say probably, as I mentioned, me coming from Egypt again, like I would say probably I might be even closer to the Asian style than the German style. But since I've been working for quite a long period of time with them, that's something that I learned. Basically, straightforward communication with facts and figures.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And about from your data or information that you have, currently, let's say like during COVID or after this, the trend for the leadership development, the topic that even German or European country, which one that Simdustry got a lot of like requirement from your client in which area of the leadership competency?
Yeah, well, in general, of course, like one of the key requests, like all the trends that I mentioned in my presentation, again, has come as key requests from our clients in Europe in general. So I would say that those trends or perspectives are not only singled out to Germany, but generally in Europe, these are basically competencies that are required in leadership in Europe in general. But I would say, again, something that has to do with the human skills in general, rather than the technical skills, are now at a high demand. Like you mentioned again, like it's the same in Thailand. And I think this is dictated by the situation that we're in, again. One way or another, things like, and I mentioned, believe it or not, in my presentation, I mentioned active listening, and it might be as simple as a skill or competency, but it's so critically important that you really have to practice it and live it and apply it in every occasion. It's not an option anymore that you are like locked into your own silo and assuming that and like listening to your own self and mind, and not really actively listening to, and by actively listening, I'm not saying only listening to the words. I'm also listening to the mind, listening to the heart, most importantly. That's what we mean by being human. So that's what's important in this skill.
Totally agree. We know that it's the most important, like our health, but in terms of the actual action, it's very difficult.
Exactly.
Okay.
It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of practice, and it takes determination, and it takes genuinity. Like you have to be genuine and have the genuine interest in really truly understanding the need of the first person in front of you. If you're still locked into your own interest, okay, you'll never be able to reveal this active listening competency in its best way possible, I would say.
Okay, maybe my last question is about currently in terms of leadership competency in Thailand or in Asia. From the research this year, we found that company more focus on providing the wellness workplace, wellness at work, something like that. And I'm sure that German would be one of the country in the world that really put the priorities on this for their staff, their team. Do you see, especially during COVID-19, do you have any like example that you can share how they like provide wellness at work or leadership wellness for the organization in Germany?
Yeah,
and
again,
I know that Simdustry even have the simulation based on health, right? Health.
Exactly.
Sim Health, right? Yeah.
Sim Health, yes. This is one of the most recent product that we launched. It's called Sim Health, about the organization health and wellness.
Right. And this is the one that we're going to work together with Simdustry because yeah.
Absolutely.
Can you share some example that?
Yes. Again, like as I mentioned, this is an example of like the how this is something that's like high up in the priority now, and it's not only on the organization level, but as I mentioned in my presentation that it's been dictated by the German authorities as a key requirements in all organizations, and you remember that we talked about an example of the fact that the aging of the population, of the workforce population, it dictates that you take measures on the in the area of health and wellness that ensures that you maintain the health span of this workforce as long as possible, as people are aging. And again, the other factor that dictates this, the fact that the scarcity of skills coming into the labor market. So you want to make sure that whoever you have today, you want to make sure that they are doing well when it comes to their health, enjoying where they're being, their well-being, so that they continue being productive for a longer period of time, since the pipeline of talent is scarce and not happening as smoothly as we want in terms of finding the skilled worker employees, you want to make sure that whoever you have in the workforce today is well maintained when it comes to the health and wellness. This is basically a reality and a real life example of what's going on in Germany, for example.
And because most of us might be from the human resources department, do you have any like ideas for the new benefit related to the wellness in Germany right now? We might have give this for idea for our benefit next year for our team.
Yeah, I'll give you an example from our organization, from Simdustry. Okay, we are a small group of people, as you know, Montana, and maybe like the workload is quite high given the size of the organization. Despite this fact, I would say one key factor that have been proven successful to basically making our team quite engaged and happy and so on is this kind of like flexible working schedule. As everybody would know their tasks, their priorities, their duties, and they put their own schedules, and they know how, when and how things are needed. And accordingly, we all basically are working collaboratively in this style of I'm available when needed, okay, but when I'm not needed, maybe I have some personal stuff that I need to cater for, a family, some other interest, hobbies, studies maybe, and this is something that we've been practicing in Simdustry itself as a German organization. So flexible working schedules, I would say, is one practical example of ensuring like this kind of health and wellness approach.
Totally agree. And we heard the news about great resignation after COVID in United States and Europe, right? Because when company asks people to like back to the office, right, and fix schedule, this might be something that people are not familiar anymore. Absolutely. Because we've been working at home, and we feel that we can rearrange our work and life better, something like that. Yeah, absolutely. This might be an
Now, you know what?
In Thailand, most of the company use the hybrid, you know. Most of us currently we flexible more than in the past.
Yeah,
especially like Slingshot, we work from anywhere, but I'm not sure the big organization like Kun Kung AA. What is your practice right now? Can you share, or could be from 139?
Well, I would say I just wanted to mention one thing before I answer this question. Maybe just to build on this, one important, I mentioned a research done by McKinsey recently, without mentioning the country. It wasn't Germany, to be honest, but believe it or not, they realized that 30 to 40% of the employees are planning to leave their jobs in the coming 3 to 6 months without even having a job offer on hand. Can you believe it? I mean, thinking of this,
interesting.
Again, like this is shocking piece of information, leaving the jobs without even having a job offer in hand in the next 3 to 6 months, quite a hefty percentage, 40%. This tells you the kind of stress and pressure the workforce are in today. And if leadership, again, do not do something when it comes to like, I would say like synergizing with the workforce when it comes to this health and wellness. And we're talking again, like could be mental wellness or physical health and so on. It's important because we kind of like some leadership might be driving people crazy or like taking some drastic decisions. That's a true fact that was mentioned by McKinsey study again.
Thank you very much. I done my question.
Welcome, Montana.
Because I need to prepare for my next session.
Of course, good luck.
Okay, if you done presentation, your participant, you can move to other room. And thank you so much, Bahaa. In the future, Slingshot looking forward to working with you more closely.
More than welcome. It's my pleasure. I hope you enjoyed the presentation and that there was some good learnings from it and discussions and so on. That was useful for everyone.
And appreciate you wake up very, very early today.
No, that's okay.
For our live session.
Anything for you, Montana. Anything for you.
Thank you ค่ะ ทุกท่านสามารถย้ายไปฟังห้องอื่นเพิ่มเติมได้นะคะ เลือกตรง break out ข้างหน้านะคะ break out room และเลือกห้องได้เลยค่ะงั้นก็ขอบคุณนะคะเดี๋ยวพบกันค่ะ